Jinwoo walked through the long metal hallways of the Galactic Council Station, and his footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. The station was huge and made from shiny silver metal that reflected the light from distant stars through the big windows. He could see ships from dozens of different alien worlds coming and going like busy insects. He had been walking these same hallways for 20 years. Now 20 years of listening to alien problems, 20 years of finding solutions that made everyone happy, except humans, 20 years of watching his own people give and give and give until they had nothing left for themselves. The meeting room was already full when Jinwoo arrived. The air smelled strange because so many different alien species breathed different gases. Some aliens needed special breathing masks, others had tentacles instead of arms. A few looked almost human, but their skin was blue or green or covered in scales. Counselor Vex sat at the head of the long table. His 6 arms moved constantly as he talked, and his bug-like eyes never looked directly at Jinwoo when he spoke. This was typical. The aliens rarely looked at humans directly anymore. They saw humans as servants who would always say yes to any request. Today was different, though. Jinwoo could feel it in his bones. Something inside him was changing, like a dam that was about to break after holding back water for too long. The first request came from the Rillan ambassador. Her people were starving on 3 different planets. Pirates kept stealing their food shipments, and the Rillan military was too weak to stop them. She wanted human ships to escort their food convoys. Jinwoo had heard this request before many times. The answer was always the same. Humans would provide free escort services using their own fuel and risking their own lives. The Rillans would pay nothing and offer nothing in return. The second request came from the Bruthan Empire. They wanted human engineers to build bridges on their colony worlds. The bridges would help Bruthan settlers move around easier and make more money. The Bruthans would keep all the profits while humans worked for free. Jinwoo listened and felt his jaw getting tighter. He had seen human engineers work 18-hour days in dangerous conditions, building things for aliens who never said thank you. Some engineers had died in accidents on alien worlds. Their families got nothing but a letter saying their loved one died serving galactic peace. The third request was the one that made Jinwoo want to scream. Counselor Vex clicked his mandibles together, which was how his species showed they were happy. He explained that the Skarn Confederation had made a wonderful discovery. They had found old cave paintings on Kepler 442b that proved it was their ancient hunting ground. This was a lie, and everyone in the room knew it. Kepler 442b was a human colony world. Humans had bought it legally 50 years ago. They had spent decades terraforming the planet, making it suitable for life. They had built cities and farms and factories. Millions of humans now called it home, but the Skarn wanted it back. They claimed their ancestors had hunted there thousands of years ago, even though they had no proof. The cave paintings they mentioned were probably fake or from some other planet entirely. The worst part was not the lie itself. It was what Counselor Vex said next. He told Jinwoo that humans should feel honored to give up their planet for galactic peace. He said humans were naturally generous and would understand why this sacrifice was necessary. He said it with the same tone someone might use to ask for a glass of water. Jinwoo felt something snap inside his chest like a rubber band stretched too far. Behind him sat his assistant Haewon. She was young and still believed that helping aliens was noble work. She had joined the diplomatic corps because she wanted to make the galaxy a better place. Jinwoo remembered feeling that way once a long time ago. Haewon leaned forward and whispered in Jinwoo's ear. Her voice was shaking with anger. She told him about the latest intelligence report Earth had just received. The food shipments to the Rillan refugees had been attacked. Again, 3 human freighters were destroyed and their crews were dead. The pirates had taken everything, including medical supplies meant for sick children. The Rillan government knew exactly where the pirates were hiding, but refused to share the information. When the human military asked for permission to hunt down the pirates, the Galactic Council said no. Military action might upset the pirates' home government, which was apparently more important than human lives. This was the pattern that had repeated for 300 years. Humans gave everything and received nothing in return. They were expected to sacrifice their money, their time, their resources, and even their lives for aliens who saw them as nothing more than useful tools. Jinwoo looked around the meeting room at all the alien faces staring at him. They were waiting for him to say yes like he always did. They had grown so comfortable with human generosity that they forgot it was a choice the Veltar ambassador was picking. At his food with thin fingers, the Keth representative was cleaning her scales with a small brush. The Horan delegate was taking a nap in his chair. None of them seemed to care that they were asking humans to give up an entire planet for 3 centuries. Humans had been the galaxy's problem solvers when 2 species went to war. Humans negotiated peace. When trade disputes threatened to destroy economies, humans found compromises. When natural disasters struck alien worlds, humans sent aid. But what happened when humans had problems? Nobody helped Earth when earthquakes destroyed cities. Nobody sent aid when human colonies were attacked by pirates. Nobody cared when human families went hungry because their food was being given away to aliens. Jinwu realized that the aliens had never seen humans as equals. They saw humans as a resource to be used up like fuel or electricity. When you needed electricity, you flipped a switch and expected it to work. You did not thank the electricity or worry about its feelings. That was how aliens saw humans, useful tools that existed to make their lives easier. The breaking point was not just about Kepler 442b or the stolen food shipments or the countless other injustices. It was about the fundamental assumption that human sacrifice was natural and expected. It was about being taken for granted for so long that the aliens forgot humans had choice. Jinwu stood up slowly, and every conversation in the room stopped. The aliens looked at him with mild curiosity, like they might look at a piece of furniture that had moved unexpectedly for the first time in 300 years. A human ambassador was about to do something that would change the galaxy forever. He was about to say no. It was such a simple word, but it hit the council chamber like a physical force. Every alien in the room went completely silent. Some stopped breathing, others dropped the food they were eating, a few actually fell backward in their chairs. Jinwu had never felt so calm in his entire life. The anger was still there, burning in his chest, but now it was controlled like a fire in a metal furnace. He looked directly at Councillor Thex and spoke in a voice that carried to every corner of the room. Humanity will not give up. Kepler 442b, we will not send more food to be stolen by pirates. You refuse to stop. We will not build more bridges for species that treat us like slaves. And we will not mediate one more dispute while our own people suffer. The silence stretched on and on until it became uncomfortable. Councillor Thex opened and closed his mandibles several times, but no sound came out. His 6 arms twitched nervously and his compound eyes darted around the room looking for support from other aliens, but the other aliens were just as shocked as he was. They had never heard a human say no to anything ever. Finally, Counselor Vex found his voice, but it came out as a high-pitched squeak. But humans always help, he said. Is your nature your purpose in the galaxy? Everyone knows this. Jinwu felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Captain So Young, the head of the Human Defense Fleet. She had been waiting outside the chamber in case the meeting turned violent. Now she stepped forward and stood beside. Jinwu. So Young was not a diplomat. She was a soldier who had spent 30 years protecting human colonies from pirates and raiders. She had seen human blood spilled for alien causes, and she was tired of it. Her military uniform was clean and pressed, but her eyes were hard as steel. Our nature is to help those who deserve it, she said in a voice that could cut glass. Our purpose is whatever we choose it to. Beatty aliens started talking all at once, their voices mixed together in a chaos of clicks and whistles and roars. Some were angry, others were confused, but most were scared. They had built their entire civilization on the assumption that humans would always be there to help them. Jinwu pulled out a small device from his pocket. It was a quantum communicator that could send messages across the galaxy instantly. He pressed a button and spoke clearly. This is Ambassador Jinwu speaking to all human colonies and installations. Effective immediately. All humanitarian aid operations are suspended. All diplomatic missions are cancelled. All non-essential personnel are to return to human space immediately. The message went out at the speed of light, bouncing from relay station to relay station until it reached every human outpost. In the Galaxion mining station, Kepler 7 supervisor Dong Haiyan was arguing with a Keth overseer about production quotas when his communicator buzzed. He listened to Jinwu's message and a huge smile spread across his face. Pack it up, everyone, he announced to his crew, "We are going home." The human miners cheered and threw their helmets in the air. They had been working double shifts for months to meet alien demands while their own families on Earth went without basic supplies. Now they could finally put their own people first. Dr. Min Young was treating plague victims on the planet Zarian when she received the message. She had been working for 18 hours straight trying to save alien children from a disease that their own doctors could not cure. She looked at the long line of sick aliens waiting for treatment and felt something she had not felt in years: relief. She packed her medical supplies and walked to her ship. The alien doctors begged her to stay. They said thousands would die without her help. She turned around and gave them the same advice they had given humans for centuries: form a committee to study the problem on the trade station. Veganine engineer Kyung-soo was building a new docking system for Bruthan cargo ships. The Bruthans would make millions from the improved facilities, but they had not offered to pay the humans a single credit for the working. Soo shut down his equipment and called his team together. "We are done here," he said. "Pack everything, we leave in 1 hour." The Bruthan supervisor ran over and demanded to know what was happening. Kyung-soo looked at the alien's angry face and felt a deep satisfaction. "Ask your government," he said. "They will explain everything." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human teachers closed their schools and left primitive aliens to educate themselves. Human engineers stopped building bridges and left aliens to figure out their own transportation. Human doctors abandoned their patients and returned to treat their own species. The aliens had grown so dependent on human help that they had forgotten how to do things for themselves. For 3 centuries, humans had been solving their problems. Now they would have to learn to solve problems on their own. Back in the council chamber, the aliens were starting to panic. The Rillan ambassador was crying thick blue tears. The Keth representative was shedding scales from stress. The Horan delegate had woken up from his nap and was demanding to know what was happening. Counselor Thex stood up on his thin legs and pointed one of his 6 arms at Jinwei. "You cannot do this," he said. "The galaxy needs humanity. You have obligations, treaties, agreements." Jinwu smiled. "For the first time in months, our treaties say we will help maintain galactic peace." He said, "They do not say we must sacrifice our own people for your convenience. Peace works both ways, Captain." So Young stepped forward and her hand moved to the weapon on her belt. "The human defense fleet has new orders," she announced. "Any attack on human colonies or human citizens will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. We are no longer your peacekeepers. We are humanity's protectors." The threat was clear, and every alien in the room understood it. For centuries, humans had been gentle mediators who used words to solve problems. Now they were reminding everyone that they also had the biggest and most advanced military in the galaxy. Counselor Thex tried one more time to restore the old order. "But what about the refugees?" he said. "What about the sick children? What about the trade routes?" Jinwu gathered his papers and prepared to leave. "That is no longer our problem," he said. "You wanted to treat us like servants. Now you can learn to govern without us." The quantum communicator in his pocket buzzed with confirmation messages. Human colonies across the galaxy were shutting down their aid operations. Human ships were returning to human space. Human citizens were coming home. The Great Withdrawal had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The aliens watched in horror as their comfortable world collapsed around them. They had forgotten that human patience was not infinite. They had forgotten that human kindness was a gift, not a right. Now they would remember. 6 months had passed since the Great Withdrawal, and the galaxy was learning what silence sounded like. The constant humming of human cargo ships that once filled space lanes had disappeared. The steady stream of human medical vessels rushing to disaster zones had stopped. The patient voices of human diplomats in council chambers had gone quiet, leaving only empty chairs and bitter memories on the refugee planet Rillos 3. The silence was deadly. Thousands of Rillan families huddled in makeshift camps made from metal scraps and old blankets. The blue-skinned aliens had always been a peaceful species, more interested in art and music than war or technology. When pirates destroyed their homeworlds, the Rillans had nowhere to go except these refugee camps. For decades, human food ships had arrived every week, bringing enough supplies to keep everyone alive. The ships came so regularly that the Rillans stopped worrying about tomorrow. There would always be more food, more medicine, more help from the generous humans. Now the camps were starving. Elder Vel ran watched his grandchildren grow thinner each day. Their blue skin had turned pale and their large eyes seemed too big for their faces. The little ones cried constantly from hunger, but there was nothing he could give them. The camp leaders had sent desperate messages to Earth begging for help. The responses came back cold and automatic. Please contact the Galactic Council for Humanitarian Assistance. Human aid operations have been suspended indefinitely. When the Rillans contacted the council, Counselor Thex told them to be patient. A committee was being formed to study their situation. The committee would need time to gather information, hold meetings, and write reports. Meanwhile, people were dying. Dr. Eugen sat in her new laboratory on Earth and watched the news reports about the castor plague. The disease was spreading through 3-star systems, turning healthy aliens into walking corpses. Their skin fell off in chunks and they died screaming in pain. She had spent 20 years fighting that plague on alien worlds. She knew exactly how to stop it. The cure was simple, but it required human medical technology and human expertise. Without her and doctors like her, the plague would kill millions. Her former alien colleagues sent increasingly desperate messages begging her to return. They offered money, titles, even honorary citizenship in their species. She deleted the messages without reading them. Castor plague was not her problem anymore. The economic collapse started small like a crack in a dam, but quickly became a flood that swept away entire civilizations. Minho had once run the largest shipping company in the galaxy. His human crews transported goods between thousands of worlds, keeping trade routes open and commerce flowing. The aliens had taken this service for granted, assuming the ships would always be there. Now, cargo was piling up on alien docks with no way to move it between worlds. The aliens had never bothered to build their own shipping fleets. Why should they when humans did all the work for free on the Kef? Homeworld factories shut down because they could not get raw materials on Bruthan colonies. Construction projects stopped because building supplies were stuck in warehouses light years away. On dozens of world stock markets crashed as trade ground to a halt. The aliens finally realized that humans had not just provided charity, they had been the backbone of galactic civilization. Minho now managed shipping routes between human colonies and watched with satisfaction as alien trade delegations arrived at Earth begging for renewed contracts. They offered huge payments, promises of favorable trade deals, even marriage alliances with human families. His answer was always the same. Negotiations could begin with a formal apology and reparations for 3 centuries of exploitation. Most aliens were too proud to apologize. They still believed they were superior to humans and that the withdrawal was temporary. They convinced themselves that humans would come crawling back within a few months, desperate to resume their servile role. They were wrong. The Skarn Confederation faced the worst consequences of all. Their greed for Kepler 442b had triggered this entire crisis, but they gained nothing from it. The planet remained in human hands, protected by the most advanced military in the galaxy. Without human technology, the Skarn could not extract resources from their other worlds. Their mining equipment broke down and no human engineers came to fix it. Their refineries stopped working and no human technicians came to restart them. Within months, the Skarn economy collapsed completely. Different Skarn clans began fighting over the remaining resources. Civil war seemed inevitable and there were no human peacekeepers to prevent it. In the council chambers, emergency sessions ran day and night, but the debates went nowhere without human mediation. The aliens had forgotten how to compromise. They had grown used to humans finding solutions that made everyone happy. Now they had to negotiate with each other directly, and it was a disaster. The Veltar and the Horan got into a screaming match over mining rights that lasted 6 hours. The Keth delegation walked out 3 times during discussions about trade regulations. The Bruthan ambassador challenged the Rillan representative to single combat over an insult. Counselor Thex tried to maintain order, but he was losing control. His 6 arms waved frantically as he begged for calm, but no one listened. The other species no longer respected his authority without human backing. The most frightening realization was how much the aliens had depended on human protection. Many smaller species had survived for centuries only because human peacekeepers prevented stronger species from conquering them. Now those protections were gone. The Zeth Empire looked hungrily at Veltar colonies that had valuable crystal deposits. The Bruthan military began planning invasions of weaker neighbors. The Keth started building weapons instead of art war. was coming to the galaxy and there would be no humans to stop it. Dru Jin received a personal message from the Veltar Council begging her to reconsider. They were different from the other species. They said they had always treated humans with respect. They offered her anything she wanted if she would just come back and help fight the plague. She almost deleted the message like all the others, but something made her pause. The Veltar were telling the truth. They had been the only species to treat humans as equals instead of servants. Maybe some species deserved a second chance, but first they would have to prove they had learned their lesson. The galaxy would have to understand that human help was a privilege, not a right. Respect had to be earned, not demanded. The silence of human space continued while the galaxy burned. The aliens had 300 years to learn how to treat humans properly. Now they were getting a crash course in the consequences of their failure. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake about humanity for 3 centuries. Aliens saw humans as naturally peaceful, almost like gentle farm animals that existed to serve stronger species. They forgot that humans had conquered their own world through countless wars. They forgot that human history was written in blood and survival against impossible odds. Colonel Minsu stood on the bridge of his warship, the Retribution, and smiled as he read his new orders. For 30 years he had commanded the Terran Rangers, humanity's most elite fighting force, but they had been used only as peacekeepers, breaking up alien fights with minimal force. Those days were over. Pirates had been raiding human colonies on the Outer Rim, thinking humanity's withdrawal made them vulnerable. The pirates were about to learn why humans had been such effective peacekeepers. It was not because they were gentle, it was because they understood war better than any other species. The first pirate base was called Razor's Edge. It was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid and protected by energy shields that could stop most alien weapons. The pirates thought they were safe. They had been raiding trade routes for decades without serious opposition. They had never faced human military technology. Minsu's fleet approached the asteroid in complete stealth mode. Human ships had cloaking devices that made them invisible to alien sensors. The pirates had no idea death was approaching until it was too late. The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Human plasma cannons tore through the pirates' shields like paper. Human missiles struck with surgical precision, destroying weapons and life support systems. Human boarding pods punched through the asteroids hull, and elite soldiers poured inside. The pirates surrendered immediately, but Minsu was not interested in prisoners. His orders were clear. Human colonies were under Earth's protection. This protection would be absolute. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained of Razor's Edge except debris floating in space. The pirates' ships were gone, their weapons were gone, their base was gone. Even their distress beacons had been destroyed. General Kyung-ho sat in his office on Earth and watched reports flood in from across human space. Pirates who had operated for decades were disappearing overnight. Raider fleets that seemed unstoppable were being wiped from existence. He released a single statement to the galactic news networks: human colonies are under Earth's protection. This protection will be absolute. The message was broadcast in every major alien language, but some species were slow learners. The Bruthan Empire thought they saw opportunity in human isolation. Their leaders convinced themselves that humans were still the same gentle mediators they had always known. The Bruthans launched simultaneous attacks on 3 human mining colonies, expecting easy victories against a peaceful species. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that fought with terrifying efficiency. Commander Yunji led the counterattack from her flagship, the Unforgiving. Her battle group consisted of 12 human dreadnoughts, each one more powerful than an entire Bruthan fleet. The Bruthans had never seen ships like these because humans had never needed to use them before the first Bruthan task force died without firing a shot. Human weapons reached across space and destroyed their ships before they could even see their attackers. The second task force tried to retreat, but human ships were faster, human engines were more advanced, human navigation was superior. The Bruthans could not run far enough, fast enough. The third and largest Bruthan fleet tried to make a stand at the Epsilon system. They brought everything they had, 200 warships carrying their best weapons and most experienced crews. They thought surely humans could not defeat such numbers. They were wrong. On G used tactics that aliens had never seen before. Human ships Moved in perfect coordination like parts of a single organism, they struck from multiple directions at once, forcing the Bruthans to divide their fire. Human electronic warfare systems jammed alien communications, turning the Bruthan fleet into isolated ships fighting alone. The battle was over in less than an hour, 200 Bruthan warships reduced to scrap metal floating in space. Not a single human ship was even damaged. News of the massacres spread across the galaxy faster than light. Alien leaders who had dismissed the human withdrawal as a temporary tantrum suddenly realized they had awakened something terrible. Ambassador Jinwu received frantic communications from dozens of species begging for renewed human protection. The same aliens who had treated humans like servants now groveled for mercy. His responses were cold and professional. Humanity was no longer interested in protecting those who had taken their protection for granted. The galaxy would have to learn to defend itself. The Zeth Empire had been planning to invade the peaceful Veltar colonies, but they changed their minds after seeing what happened to the Bruthans. The Keth canceled their weapons programs and sent diplomats to Earth begging for peace treaties. The Horan offered tribute in exchange for promises that humans would not attack them. Fear spread through alien space like a plague. Species that had never worried about human military power suddenly realized how exposed they were. Human fleets could strike anywhere at any time, and there was nothing aliens could do to stop them. On Earth, military factories worked around the clock building new warships. New weapons were being designed and tested every day. Human scientists who had spent decades developing peaceful technology now focused on instruments of war. The galaxy watched in horror as humanity revealed its true nature. Humans were not gentle farmers or patient mediators. They were apex predators from a world that had forged them through millions of years of conflict. Dru Jin received a message from her old colleague on Zarian. The Castor Plague was now unstoppable without human help. Entire cities were being abandoned as the disease spread from world to world. She deleted the message. Without reading it, the aliens had made their choice when they decided human lives were worthless. Colonel Minsu patrolled the border regions where pirates used to operate. Space was quiet now. Word had spread through the criminal underworld that attacking humans meant death. Some pirates tried to surrender and offered information about other criminal operations in exchange for mercy. Minsu listened to their pleas and then destroyed their ships anyway. Mercy was something humans had given freely for 3 centuries now. It had to be earned. The galaxy had spent 300 years treating humans like servants. They had forgotten that their servants were also warriors. Now they remembered, but it was too late to take back the insults and injuries. Humanity had tried peace and been exploited for their kindness. Now they would try something else. They would try being exactly what nature had made them, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The age of human servitude was over. The age of human dominance had begun. 2 years had passed since humanity shocked the galaxy by saying no and everything was different. The old order where humans served and aliens commanded was dead. A new reality had taken its place, built on respect instead of exploitation. The Galactic Council met every week now, but their discussions were desperate attempts to hold together a civilization that was falling apart. Without human mediation, old conflicts had exploded into wars. Without human aid, weak species faced extinction. Without human protection, the galaxy had become a dangerous place where only the strong survived. Fleet Admiral Jamin stood on the bridge of the newest human dreadnought, called the inevitable, and reviewed reports from across human space. The news was good. Human colonies were more prosperous than ever. Human technology had advanced at incredible speed. Human military forces had become the most feared in the galaxy. Freedom from alien demands had allowed humanity to focus on itself for the first time. In centuries, human scientists made breakthrough discoveries. Human engineers built amazing machines. Human artists created beautiful works that spoke to the human soul. But the most important change was how other species looked at humans. The age of taking human kindness for granted was over. Now aliens approached humans with careful respect, like approaching a sleeping tiger. The first species to understand the new reality were the Veltar. Ambassador Taehyun received the Veltar delegation. At Earth's orbital station, these gentle philosophical beings had always been different from other aliens. They treated humans as equals, not servants. They said please and thank you. They offered fair payment for human services. The Veltar ambassador spoke through translation devices, but his message was clear. They wanted renewed friendship with humanity, not as masters expecting service, but as equals seeking mutual benefit. Dru Jin found herself back in space for the first time since the withdrawal. But this time, everything was different. She was treating Veltar children afflicted by a genetic plague, but as part of a fair exchange agreement. The Veltar provided rare minerals that humans needed for their technology. Humans provided medical expertise that could save Veltar lives. Both sides benefited. Both sides showed respect. It was how cooperation should have worked from the beginning. The success of human Veltar cooperation sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Other species began to understand that humanity had not disappeared, they had simply stopped being taken advantage of. New treaties emerged, but these were different from the old agreements. Instead of human sacrifice, they were based on equality and mutual benefit. Humans would provide services if aliens provided fair compensation. Humans would offer protection if aliens offered respect. The change was not easy for species that had grown comfortable with human servitude. Counselor Dex, whose arrogance had helped trigger the crisis, finally swallowed his pride and requested a meeting with Ambassador Jinwu. The insectoid leader arrived at Earth surrounded by guards, but they were not there to protect him. They were there to show he came in peace. Dex had practiced his speech many times. His species did not apologize easily, but survival required learning new behaviors. He stood before Jinwu and spoke words that would have been impossible 2 years earlier. We were wrong, he said. His mandibles clicked nervously. As he continued, we took your kindness for weakness, we mistook your patience for submission. We treated you like servants when you were our equals. Jinwu listened without expression. The human ambassador had heard many apologies over the past months, but most were motivated by fear rather than genuine understanding. Fex continued, the galaxy has learned that humanity's greatest strength was never your willingness to serve, but your choice to serve. We forgot that every gift you gave was freely given, not demanded. The apology was broadcast across the galaxy. Many species watched to see how humans would respond. Some hoped for immediate forgiveness, others feared harsh punishment. All understood that this moment would shape the future. Asian Wu spoke carefully. The galaxy has learned, he said. The question is whether you have learned enough to deserve our friendship again. It was not forgiveness, but it was not rejection either. It was an opportunity for species that truly understood their mistakes to prove they had changed. Some aliens could not accept the new reality. The Bruthan Empire refused to admit they had done anything wrong. They insisted that humans were obligated to serve stronger species and that the withdrawal was illegal. Bruthans learned what happened to species that refused to change. Human battle fleets appeared over Bruthan worlds, not to conquer, but to quarantine. The Bruthans could keep their pride, but they would be cut off from the rest of the galaxy until they learned better manners. Other species took the hint and began sending diplomats to Earth with formal apologies and offers of genuine cooperation. The Skarn Confederation, whose greed had started the crisis, offered to give up all claims to Kepler 442b. In exchange for trade agreements, the Keth promised to share their artistic knowledge in return for human technology. The Horan offered rare crystals for human medical assistance, but the new treaties all contained the same basic principle: mutual respect and fair exchange. No more one-sided human sacrifice, no more taking human generosity for granted. Engineer Dong Haiyan returned to work on alien worlds, but under completely different conditions. His human crews received fair wages, safe working conditions, and real appreciation for their efforts. When alien supervisors were rude or demanding, they were replaced immediately. The humans had not become cruel or vindictive. They had simply learned to value themselves as much as they valued others. Dar Min Young resumed her medical work fighting diseases on alien worlds, but now she worked as part of international teams where humans and aliens contributed equally. She saved lives not out of obligation, but because healing was what she chose to do. The galaxy settled into its new rhythm based on respect rather than exploitation. Some species adapted quickly and found that cooperation with humans was more beneficial than the old system of free labor. Others struggled to change ingrained attitudes, but learned gradually that the alternative was isolation. A few species, like the Bruthans, remained quarantined until they could prove they understood the new rules. The transformation was not complete. There were still conflicts, still problems, still Species that tried to take advantage of others, but now there were consequences for bad behavior. The galaxy had learned that treating others with respect was not just morally right, but practically necessary. Jinwei walked through the same council hallways where he had made his historic refusal 2 years earlier, but now he walked as an equal among equals. The desperate alien faces that had once demanded human sacrifice were replaced by respectful colleagues who understood the value of cooperation. In the council chambers, a new saying had emerged among the alien species. It was whispered in 100 different languages, but the meaning was always the same: never mistake patience for weakness. Never take kindness for granted. Never forget the day humanity stopped saying yes to everything. The galaxy had learned its lesson the hard way, but it was a lesson that would not be forgotten. Human ships once again moved through galactic space carrying aid to those who needed it, mediating disputes between species, building bridges between worlds. But now they did these things as partners, not servants. The age of human exploitation was over. The age of human respect had begun, and no species would ever forget how that change happened when humanity's patience finally snapped for good.